Hi, thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah, this is Your Tree Shelf, and I'm here with a Friday Reads today. So I've got to tell you about a book event I went to, as well as the books that I've finished since last week, what I'm reading at the moment, and what my upcoming reading plans are. That's generally what we do in a Friday Reads. So my week started off really nicely because a friend had bought me as an early birthday present a trip to Waterstones to see Elodie Harper talk about her new book, Boudicca's Daughter. So if you remember, I read the Wolf Den trilogy by Elodie Harper over the last couple of years and I absolutely loved it. It's wonderful, brilliant historical fiction, and her next book is about Boudicca's daughter. So I'm just going to show you because I got a signed copy which my friend really kindly got me for my birthday. So this is the beautiful book, and this is obviously about Boudicca's daughter. So we think we know that Boudicca had two daughters and their names were not known. And because so much has been written about Boudicca, Elodie Harper wanted to focus on her oldest daughter, who she calls Selena. And that's as much as I know because I don't want to read the blurb and kind of get any spoilers. But as you also know, I recently, over the last year, I read the Boudicca Quartet by Amanda Scott with Aaron. We both just absolutely adored that series. So this is going to be strange because I trust Elodie Harper to do a great job because the Wolf Den was so amazing. But it's also going to be weird to have different characters to the ones that I know from, over 3,000 pages of reading that quartet. And the Boudicca's daughters in the Amanda Scott books are called Sigvar and Gronya, and so we have Selena here, and so I just have to try and keep them completely separate and treat them as their own things so that I don't get confused between the different characters in both books. And the other thing is there are some historical characters, especially Roman historical characters that are people we knew that existed, so they will be in both books as well, so that will be interesting. And now she was interviewed by a lovely guy called Duncan Mackay, who is an archaeologist, and his area of expertise is Boudicca, and he was also selling his non-fiction book, which I bought because I'm fascinated by Boudica. I think it's just such a incredible time and so interesting. And this is called Echolands, A Journey in Search of Boudica. So he's worked in this area, so in East Anglia, over 2 decades, predominantly with the University of Cambridge. And he now does his own research. He lives locally in Norfolk with his family. And so I'm just really excited to read this. There's a few photos in here as well. But yeah, I'm sure it will be extremely interesting because he was interesting to listen to on the night, and this is a period of history that's local to here and that is fascinating. So that will also be, I'm not counting it yet because I haven't done it yet, but there's a square on HRCYED, the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do if you don't know by now, which is to go to a book event and read the book by that author. That was from HRCYED 1. I may have adapted it a little bit as well, I'm not sure. But that's one of the squares on my prompt. So that's going to be that. And it's also going to be my August new release. So I've got the squares planned for Boudicca's Daughter already, but obviously won't count them until I've read them. But that one will be a read quickly because I need to count it as my August new release. So that's the only books that I've hauled since last time. Let's move on to the books that I've actually read. So it's Shorty September, and so there are some short books in here. The first one being Brielle and Bear by Salomey Doku. So this is a graphic novel that my daughter read, and I bought it for her for Christmas last year, I think. And she really loved it, and she said, "Mum, please can you read it as well?" So I thought I'd save it for Shorty September. It's got lots of fairy tale inspiration. It's really good artwork. So it's full colour, really good style of artwork. It's about Brielle and Bear go to this university called Once Upon a Time University. It's she's obsessed with fairy tales. Bear really likes Brielle. Brielle likes Bear, but there's kind of a little bit of things that are getting in their way because Bear feels that he can't be completely upfront about certain things that he likes, and he's also embarrassed because he has dyslexia, and he's worried that that will make Brielle think that he's not intelligent and stuff like that. So they kind of navigate some kind of low-key issues as well throughout the book. And it was just I read it and thinking one day it was just a really lovely kind of happy YA romance based around fairy tales. So that was really nice and comforting. Gave that one 3.5 stars. So for my HRCYED squares, I'm going to use this one for by the hundreds, because this one has 169 pages, so I can use this for the 100s category, and that takes me up to a total of 3 out of 7 squares for that prompt. I'm also going to use it for the A to Z challenge. Why did I say Z? I'm not American. A to Z challenge. And I'm going to use it for D, for the author's surname of Doku, which takes me up to 9 out of 26 on my alphabet square. Then I listened to a book which was for Shorty September, but I've had it for such a long time, and it was Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. So I've said before that my granddad gave me his anthology of John Steinbeck, which is a huge book. It's got about 5 or 6 of John Steinbeck's works in it. The only one I'd read before was East of Eden, and contrary to public opinion, I didn't really like East of Eden. So this was kind of John Steinbeck's last chance saloon with me, that if I liked Of Mice and Men, I would maybe try something else. If I didn't, then I was kind of done with him. And I absolutely loved Of Mice and Men. I thought it was wonderful. I'm sure everybody knows what it's about, but it's a really short book. It's about Lenny and George. Lenny has got learning difficulties. He's a really big man. He's really strong, and he accidentally hurts people and animals, and he doesn't mean to do it on purpose. He's either too strong and doesn't realise his own strength, or he gets scared and then he doesn't know what to do and he hurts things, people, animals. And so they keep having to leave where they are working, and George is his friend. He looks after him, and he keeps having to get him out of difficulty. There's a lot of very sad things in this book. They have a dream, so especially Lenny, that one day they'll have their own place and there'll be rabbits and they'll take care of animals and they'll live off the land. And Lenny asks George throughout the story, tell me the story about the rabbits, George, and he has to say, well, this is how we're going to live one day. And so there's so much. He's so childlike, even though he's such a big, strong man. And it's a very sad story. There is racism in the story, and there is some harm that comes to animals, but it's not graphic, thankfully. And it was just so moving, so moving. It made me get a lump in my throat. I thought the writing was really good, and for such a short book, it really packs a punch. So I ended up giving this 4.75 stars, and John Steinbeck is now back on the agenda for books to try. So it took me a while to figure out how I was going to use this for HRCYED, which is the first time it has. So I'm going to use it as the letter O for the alphabet challenge for Of Mice and Men. So that takes me up to 10 out of 26 for the alphabet prompts. Then I wasn't sure what to use it for, so I thought that one of the squares is to read a classic and an adaptation of the classic. And so I thought I would see if there's been any book adaptations, like sort of modern day retellings of Mice and Men. And I found one. It's called Ugly Dogs Don't Cry by D.D. Armstrong. And it's a modern day retelling of Mice and Men set in West London about 2 young guys. And it was written in 2020, available at the library. And so I've ordered a copy in from the library because it looked good. It's got good ratings, and yeah, I'm happy to give that one a go. So that's going to be my adaptation for that square. So for my classic, I've done 1 out of the 2 squares. The next book that I finished was one that I was reading in my last video, and I finished The Glassmaker by Tracy Chevalier. It was absolutely magnificent. So as I have mentioned this a little bit already, but I'm going to talk about it again because I want everyone to pick it up. I also checked, so this is my third Tracy Chevalier book that I've read, and I've given them all 5 stars. So that doesn't happen very often. So Tracy Chevalier must now be one of my favourite authors. I have got A Girl with a Pearl Earring, which I've had for ages on my TBR shelf or up here somewhere, and I haven't read it, and so now I must, because that could be my 4th 5-star book by her. So we are in Venice in the 1400s. We're with the Rosso family. We're with the Rosso family for the entirety of the book. There's mum, dad, and their children. Ursula is the child that we are focusing on the most. She's about in her late teens when the book opens. She has an older brother called Marco, another brother called Giacomo, and they are a glass-making family on the island of Murano, which is near Venice. And at the very beginning of the book, the patriarch of the family, the maestro, the glassmaker, there's a glass accident. A piece of glass flies up and lodges in the main artery in his neck, and he bleeds out really quickly. So the family's left without a maestro, and Marco is a very hot-headed, spontaneous, sort of bit of an unpleasant man who is trying his best to keep the glass business going, but he's not really ready. He's not really the right person to be doing it. And Ursula is told by a woman in a rival glass family that she needs to learn how to start making beads, because this might save the family fortune, or it might at least give her a bit of an income so that she can, be independent, basically. So that's the sort of start of the story. We have a really interesting premise in that this story takes the same characters up to present day. So Tracy Chevalier says at the beginning that she imagines time like water, and our characters are like a stone that's been skimmed over the water and it bounces along. And each time the stone bounces, our characters are transported from the century that they're in by about sort of 70 to 100 years. And that happens several times throughout the book. There's no mention of the fact that they've travelled in time, apart from, so the author will say they've gone through the time when this happened and that happened historically, but there's no kind of, oh, how did we get here? This is strange. Like, the characters just accept whatever time they're in, and they're the same age, or they've aged like 5 or 10 years or so, but they haven't aged like 100 years. It's not like they're 600 by the time the book finishes. So we go through like the Black Death, we go through the Austrian takeover of Venice, and we go through World War One, COVID, like all different things that have happened throughout history, but with the same characters, which is really cool. I've never come across that ever. And there's also a love story which runs through the centre of the book as well. But just the learning about the trade and the glass and the creativity and the things that were made, and how different political things took Venice from being one of the main trading ports in the world to being somewhere where they were struggling to get tourists, and where they were struggling to still trade, because people were then trading with other European cities and Asia and things once time had moved forward. So there's so much that's in this book, and the characters are ones that stay in your heart, that you care about deeply. There's a big family, but we're only focusing on just the main characters. And the Italian everything of it is just beautiful, like the language, the accents. I listened to the audiobook, was fantastic. There's a few Italian words that are put in, like insults and stuff as well, which just was really good. And this was a phenomenal book. I was 100% 5 stars. I can't see it not being in my best books of the year. It was wonderful. So for HRCYED, I decided that this is going to be number 2 for my blurbed books square. So if you remember last time, we had These Days by Lucy Caldwell was the main book. It had been blurbed by Tracy Chevalier. So for the first blurbed author, I read this by Tracy Chevalier. And I'm also going to have it for the genre challenge for historical fiction. So that takes me up to 6 out of 8. So I'm nearly there with the genres. I've just got the mystery, thriller and horror ones to go, which are genres I don't really read. So that's why those ones are left. So the last book that I finished was called, there's another shorty, and it was called Storm Christopher by Jodi Taylor. So this book was a novella that I read for Shorty September again, and there's a series which I've mentioned many times called the Frogmorton Farm series by Jodi Taylor. There's the Nothing Girl first, there's the Something Girl second, and then there's 3 novellas, and this is the last novella, which I have read all of them now. So I've completed the series so far. I don't know whether there'll be any other novellas. This is something I can't really talk about the plot because it sort of carries on from the other 2 books, but this is the series where we're following Jenny, who has speech difficulties, who's really depressed living with her aunt and uncle, who's suicidal, who one day sees this kind of guardian animal, this beautiful golden horse called Thomas, who smells like ginger biscuits, who only she can see, and he takes care of her through all the most difficult times in her life. She goes on to meet and marry a guy called Russell, who is adorable in a very frustrating way. And it carries on with her life when she turns from feeling like she's nothing to feeling like she's something. And I love this series dearly. I really do. It's just something that if you are in any kind of difficult place, I would really recommend this series. And I really enjoyed Storm Christopher. I think with the novellas, because they're quite short, they're definitely not as good as the main 2 books. So this one was like a 3.75 or 3.5-ish for me. The main bits that I love are the relationships that I know from reading the other books. So I'd really recommend that you read The Nothing Girl, and then if you like that, to go on to the rest of the series. It's really lovely. For this one, I'm going to use it for the 7-day challenge. So the original prompt was to read 3 books in 24 hours, and I knew, or as much as you can in 24 hours. I think it was 3 books in 24 hours. I knew that wasn't ever going to happen for me because I'm a mum, I'm busy, and so I changed it to 3 books in 7 days, and I thought it'd be perfect for Shorty September. So I can only count, if I'm starting from today, because the other books that I finished were just about a week ago, then Storm Christopher is going to count as book 1 of the 3, and I think I can read 2 more shorties within the next 6 days, not a problem. And then the second prompt I'm going to use it for is the colours prompt, and so I'm going to use this. It's very purple, it has a purple cover, and so I'm going to use it for that, and that will be 2 out of 10 for the colours. I'm finding the colours quite difficult because a lot of books have multi-colour covers, and so they're not predominantly one colour over the other, but this was definitely very purple. So I've talked for a lot longer than I thought I would about those books. I will tell you briefly what I'm reading at the moment. So for Victober, the group read is Hester by Margaret Oliphant. And because it's got autumnal, I was just really in the mood just to read something Victorian. So I thought, why not start Hester now? Because it's a really long book. And so I'm starting my Victober book now. Hester, I've got an audiobook and the narrator's great, which is good. What I know so far, it's a 20-hour audiobook and I am about 2 hours in, I want to say. And it's about a family called the Varian family who have a bank, and it's been going for a couple of generations, and it's thought to be the safest bank next to the Bank of England. And the grandfather who started the bank was a really good businessman, and then when it fell to his grandson, he was not very good, and he decided he was going to spend a lot of money, not do a lot of work. And then I think he realised that the bank was in big trouble, so he's done a runner and left his wife behind, and just, yeah, scarpered basically. Everyone's really worried that they're going to lose all their money. And his cousin, I believe, a woman, Catherine, she has a lot of money, and she decides that she's going to save the bank by putting her money in as a loan to the bank and finding people to run the bank in the family and turn around the fortunes. And that's kind of where I'm a bit further in, but I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it. But I'm really enjoying it. It's very good at the moment, so it's a good group choice. And I have heard about this book before and wanted to read it. I've never read Margaret Oliphant before, so it's exciting to be finding a new Victorian author. So that's the first thing I'm reading. The rest is much the same. I've started Marking Time Now by Elizabeth Jane Howard, which is the second Cazalet Chronicles book following the Cazalet family. They're now in 1939 as the Second World War started. I am that far in. I'm buddy reading this with Jo and Aaron, and I've spoken about this recently, so I won't dwell on it, but enjoying it so far. I'm still reading, this is because I'm just because I've just dibbed in and out of everything this week. I'm still reading The Parker Inheritance by Varian Johnson, the middle grade book where they're trying to solve a family mystery from 2 generations ago involving racial injustice, and I am that far through, so I'm over halfway. It's really good. It's just that I've just had lots of things on the go at once, and I haven't really read more than a couple of chapters of this since last week. And what else am I reading? I'm still reading poor old John Green, The Anthropocene Reviewed, but I have read more essays. I'm halfway through that now. I have read more of the essays in the collection, and they're still enjoyable. I just, like I said, I don't tend to sit down and read essay collections all in one go. I tend to sort of read an essay, like it's on my Kindle, so often I'll take it out if I'm going somewhere on the bus and I'll read it while I'm on the bus, that kind of thing. So that's everything that I'm currently reading. I'm hoping that this week I will finish this one, possibly finish the John Green, make decent progress with this one, but I don't think I'll be finishing it. So that's my plans. And then really I next need to focus on my TBR spin book and my library books, which I did mention last time, so I'll just show them but won't mention them again. Oh, actually I did get one new library book out. So as I said last time, I don't normally like cosy books, but I've actually just been craving some cosy books recently, and I really wanted to read this series. This is, I don't think you have to read them in any order, but this is the series by Laurie Gilmore. Can't remember, are they called the Dream Harbour series? Something like that. And this is the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. So I wanted this one because this is set in autumn, and it's cozy romance. It's set in the Pumpkin Spice Cafe in a small town called Dream Harbour. Jeannie's aunt gifts her the cafe and she leaves her job to go to have a fresh start. Here there's a guy called Logan, he's a local farmer. He's immediately drawn to her, etc. We all know what's going to happen, but I just want comfort, and this looks like a comforting book. So I did get that one from the library, and as I said last time, I have Rewitched, I have All the Beauty in the World. I also have, which I forgot to bring through for my bedroom, the short Fredrik Backman, every morning the walk home gets longer and longer, which is one I'm going to read as part of my 7-day challenge. And I also have Lucy Powrie's third Paper and Heart Society book. I don't know why I forgot to go and get those. And then upcoming plans, as if that wasn't quite enough, the last upcoming plan is The Invention of Wings by Sue Monk Kidd, which is the TBR spin pick for September. So I think that's quite enough, really. That's like a lot of books. I'm back in the nothing to do with her kid, because I'm still not picking specifically really for her kid prompts, but I'm back in that place of I want to pick up Robin Hobb again and stuff, but I feel like, but I've got to read all these other books first. I'm kind of back in that frame of mind, but I think as long as I'm enjoying all the things, that's fine. Once I've read the library books, I think I'll only have like TBR spin commitments to keep up with and my buddy read, and that's it. So I should have a little bit more free reign, but we'll see. I may find more library books. Who knows? Anyhow, let me know your thoughts on any of the books that I mentioned, or just tell me what you read, what you're reading, anything you're looking forward to reading in autumn. And also, if you don't want to make a comment, just give me a thumbs up or leave me a little autumnal emoji in the comments. That would be lovely, just so I know you're there. I hope that you have a lovely week, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.